Talking about Ukraine, Larry. What's going on there? I don't even hear anything about Ukraine. I'm starting to get worried about Zelensky. I don't see his name for like 4 days already.
Well, I mean,
Do
if
you know if he's all right?
no, he's not all right. I mean,
That's for sure.
he's having a mental breakdown, I think. No, the Russian people are talking about, oh, there's going to be a big Russian offensive in the spring. The Russian offensive has already started. They are moving simultaneously from south to north. They are entering Sumy in the north. They're continuing to, so they've crossed out of Kursk into Sumy, which is Ukrainian territory. They're basically being welcomed by the people there. They're sick and tired of Zelensky and his crew. They're moving around Kupiansk, Pokrovsk. It's just up and down the line, down into Zaporizhia. They're making fairly rapid progress there too. So the Russians are ultimately going to take all the territory up to the Dnieper. They're not going to stop. And Putin made that clear. Basically, he gave the Ukrainians about a 2 to 3 week window, and that was 2 weeks ago. And so he may give them, they may have another week or two, but basically said, hey, the peace deal that we've offered is on the table. Withdraw your forces, get them out of our territory, because even though you keep saying you still occupy part of Zaporizhia and Kherson and a small sliver of the Donetsk, it's no longer yours. That's ours, and it always has been historically. So you need to get out. You need to disavow any intent of ever joining NATO. And you need to have get a new election, get a new leader in place, because the guy running the show right now is a neo-Nazi sympathizer, and he's illegally in office. He's overstayed his term and canceled all other elections. And until
he
then,
has bad fashion taste.
Yeah,
I said it.
Well, he's buying from the Che Guevara catalog. Okay. He is. But Putin made clear, if you don't do that, then you know what? Novorossiya is going to be in play, and Novorossiya takes territory that's on the west side of the Dnieper River too, up to and including Kiev. Russia, I think before this is all over, Russia will have taken Kiev, and the Ukrainian capital will be forced into some place like Lviv. And Russia will have Odessa. So,
yeah, for sure.
They are, they're moving forward, and the United States is, we have no leverage over the Russians. Oh, we're going to hit you with more sanctions.
Go ahead.
They sit there and they say, great, knock yourselves out.
Which was interesting because Russia is not on this tariffs list.
Well, the only thing that is still traded with the United States is some uranium. Russia exports uranium, and I think they still are allowed to export fertilizer, because the United States absolutely needs the fertilizer. Well, but apart from that, Russia's not making and sending anything to the United States, and vice versa. Well, of course, I will say that a lot of you can still find a lot of American junk food makes its way. They smuggle that shit in, or they avoid Western sanctions.
It's so crap that who cares about that? Just leave without sanctions.
It's the all the sugar-laden junk food that made America fat again. Or is not fat again? Just made America fat.
Period.
Math. Math. No, it's not again, man.
Math. You
Yeah,
know, the last time I've been in Brazil, it was because we also have a very, oil and sugarish food. Well, sugarcane is one of our specialities in Brazil. Um, I'm from Rio de Janeiro, and Rio de Janeiro is known for, fitness bodies.
yeah.
People are fat, and not everyone. Of course, there was still fitness bodies, but people are quite fat. And I'm not saying with that with proud, because I'm not myself doing all perfect, but uh, people there got very fat, and I got impressed that in all the shopping centers there were like a lot of new burger houses,
Hmm.
gourmet burger houses. And I like hamburgers, but variety is also pretty cool. So it was taken by hamburger houses, small ones, big ones, Outback and Taco Bell's. Taco Bell is not hamburger, but it's
Well,
it's not Mexican food
like I
as well.
said, the American junk food. Um,
Yeah, it was a bit surprising. And here in Europe, for example, you see a lot of American junk food, but you also see good things from all over, you know, like French food, kebab, stuff like that.
well, look, it's been going on for a long while. When I, good God, 40, was it 44 years ago? No, uh, 43 years ago, um, when I was living in Honduras, 1978. They brought this 5-year-old boy my wife's a nurse, and they brought this 5-year-old boy to the clinic. He weighed 20 pounds. He was, a 5-year-old should weigh 30, 35 pounds at least. Um, his upper body was skeletal, just skin hanging over from his waist down. The legs were swollen. Uh, so he was carrying a lot of fluid. But it turned out his his parents had died, and he's been raised by his grandmother. And the only thing he wanted to eat and drink, instead, the at that time, sort of the people in the campo, their normal meal would be, uh, you get up in the morning, you have eggs, uh, beans, frijoles, tortillas, maybe a little bit of rice. And then lunch, you'd mix it up. You'd have just beans and rice and tortillas. So you get the corn, the beans. And then for dinner, you do beans, rice, tortillas, maybe eggs, maybe a little meat, chicken. Rarely ate beef. Uh, on that, eating like that, I lost uh, 50 pounds during my time there.
Wow.
I weighed about 145. Now, the time I got dysentery, that helped with the weight loss too. But okay, but
I got you.
but here was this little boy, and what he was asking to eat was pan, white bread, and a Coca-Cola, full sugar. There wasn't Diet Coke back then yet. And that's what this kid out in the middle of 50 years ago, almost out in the middle of nowhere. Um, yeah, it's 48 years ago now, I guess. Um, was basically dying of kwashiorkor. Now in fact, when he showed up at the clinic, uh, he had an older brother that brought him. The older brother said he had left another sibling at home because they had to walk. The guy had walked like 10 miles to get to the clinic, carrying this kid. It shows you just sort of how tough some of these people are. We found out later that when he said this, because he said, I brought Hector. Hector is the sickest. So we brought him, and he said, but the other sibling is sick, but not as bad. But when he got back home, the other sibling had already died. Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
And so my wife took Hector next door we had a kitchen attached to the clinic, and she made up a mixture of bread and milk just to see if he had and he still had the desire to eat. So the fact that he hadn't reached that point of starvation where he didn't want to eat anymore, but he started eating, and he lived with us for 2 months. Then we got it until he was healthy, and then a local Honduran family that coffee farmers, Doña Julia y Don Babino, adopted him, and he grew up. So he's now, good God, he's 78. So he's probably a 44-year-old man today.
Awesome. Great story.
Yeah.
Great story. Well, half of happy ending. The other sibling didn't make it.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
Too bad.
but the point of this was that here was Coca-Cola, this U.S. invented product with, it's not healthy to drink. I understand, man. It's designed to make you want to drink it. It triggers some of those pleasure sensors in the brain, and man, it's a little bit like cocaine, because I guess the original Coke did have cocaine in it, but now they got synthetic Coke.
Coca leaf, right? Coca leaf.
Cocaine. So
Yeah. Well, everything involved, the colors, our sensor, activate the sensors and the colors and the taste, the sugar, and now also the salt. Everything is made for it. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a drug. It's very addictive. It's very addictive.